Okay, nothing. So yes. So another thing that we read about was that Krishna has told us, do not lament. There was this common theme, right? We saw three verses. I think it was 26, 25, 26, and 27. Where Krishna was mentioning Arjun to Arjun that do not lament. It's 27. Yeah. Natam shochitum arasi. Shochitum is a word that means to lament. 25, 26, and 27, three verses. Consequently, Krishna tells, do not lament, do not lament. So now we move into the next section of the. So let's go to the slides. Okay. So now here we come to 231 to 38. Now it's about dharma, and we'll see that in the first verse itself to 2.31, 38. But before we jump into that, so the second argument that Arjun made was regarding enjoyment. He was saying that if I win and all of these relatives are dead, I won't be able to enjoy, right? We always feel that we need somebody to show off our riches, our earnings. So that was the second rationale that Arjun was giving to not fight. So Krishna then mentioned about Krishna can kind of completely give him a different scenario where he says that you're confused about your identity. You're considering yourself as a body instead of a soul. Okay. So now in this section, we are going to deal with two dharmas. Let's see, I think it's right there in the first purport that we will read. 31. So I think let's look at 31. Yes. Which swadharmam api chavikshya navikampitum arhasi dharmaya dhiyuddachreyonya kshatriyasya na vidyate. So what is Krishna saying? Swadharma. Krishna has brought out the phrase here, Swadharma. So Swadharma means, Prabhupada is translating it as one's own religion, one's own religious principles. Right? So let's look at Prabhupada's purport. It means considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. And so there is no need for hesitation. So Krishna is saying specific duty as a Kshatriya. So the word Swadharma, let's see, let's just take it down, look at Prabhupada's purport. There's a mention of it. Yes. So he says, there are two kinds of Swadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's Swadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. So there are two dharmas now Krishna is talking about, Prabhupada is highlighting here. The two Swadharmas that Krishna is talking about. Well, Krishna is talking about one of them. Prabhupada is giving us two different ones so that we have a clear understanding of what is being talked about here. Okay. So just for simplicity, let's call them Swadharma and Nitya Dharma. Okay. So Swadharma, Prabhupada is already telling us it's two types, but just for the sake of simplicity, I'm calling one Swadharma, the other one as Nitya Dharma. Okay. So as spirit souls engaged in this body, we have two duties. Okay, one towards the body, that's me, and then there's one towards the soul, as a soul. So my duty as a soul, and then my duty as this body in which I'm engaged, towards this body in which I'm engaged. So duty towards this body or is Swadharma. And Krishna, if you see in the translation, Prabhupada is telling us, Krishna is saying, specific duty as a Kshatriya. So the Swadharma phrase that is being used for Varnashram Dharma. Okay. So Varnashram Dharma, I think I have a slide for that. Okay. So Swadharma. Let's consider the body, the society body of the society, And then we have the Varnashram Dharma. So Varna and Ashram, there are two words that have been combined. Varna and Ashrama. So Varna is what is on the left-hand side. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And the Ashram is Sannyas, Vanprast, Grahast, Brahmacharya. The word Ashram, if you know, like, if you have an understanding of Hindi language, Ashram, Shram means an effort, and Ashram means no effort. So when you are situated in a lifestyle where you don't have to put in an extra effort, you're not doing beyond your limit, you're not unnecessarily training yourself, and you're living your life that is conducive to your spiritual practices, then you are in an ashram. For example, Prabhupada very often quotes, he called it Grahastha Ashrama, and then a person who was not following spiritual principles while living in a Grahastha Ashrama, he was called a Graha Medhi. That's another word that Prabhupada has introduced to us. So let's go back to our Swadharma and Nitya Dharma. Okay, and so Varnashram Dharma, Krishna talks about this Varnashram Dharma in the 4th chapter also. 4.12, Krishna says that Chaturvarnyam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagayo. That Chaturvarnyam, the Varnas that have been made, Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra, and Kshatriya, those 4 Varnas, I have created them. Krishna says that. But what are they based on? Guna and Karma. Right? So Guna means your quality and your Karma means your activity. Okay? So it's based on Guna and Karma. It's not based on birth as it has been presented in today's India, and whomever I meet who doesn't have an idea, they always say that caste system in India is bad. They don't understand the utility of that system. Okay? So, so duty towards the body, as I said, is Swadharma. Okay, and for personal life organization, there is a system provided by the Lord. Right. So if somebody asks you that, okay, if it's not a by birth system, then what is this caste system that's so prevalent in India, and it's so looked down upon? Okay, so the purpose of this Varnashram system is to make our material life as harmonious as possible for spiritual growth, to give people engagements according to their strengths and their qualities. Okay, so for example, if somebody is a doctor, so the doctor, one, he has to have that intellect to be a doctor. Secondly, the doctor should also have the character to be a doctor. What that character means is that, let's say there's a patient that comes to you, that comes to me as a doctor, I'm a doctor, and I see that I can just take out one kidney from it or take some organ out and sell it off, then I'm not doing the right job. It's not according to my guna and karma, because my qualities are not that of a doctor. So I'm more of a thief, I'm more of a Shudra. And technically in this material world, in today's Kali Yuga, everybody is born a Shudra. Okay? So Prabhupada quotes Skanda Purana, and he says in Skanda Purana, it said that Kalo Shudra Sambhava, that in Kali Yuga, everybody is a Shudra. We are born as Shudras. The reason being is that because we haven't been born through the sanskar system. There are many sanskars in the Hindu Vedic system, all the way starting from Garbhadhan sanskar, right? When a child is being conceived, then there are many Jata Karma sanskars. There are birth rituals that are performed when the child is in the womb. There's a Namkaran sanskar when the child is born. There's an Annaprasna sanskar, first food, then hair cutting ceremony, and then many such of them. But today's Kali Yuga, we don't follow them. Nobody follows them completely. So technically, we all are born as Shudra, the lowest class. Right? So as I was saying, the purpose of Varnashram system was to make our life conducive to our spiritual practices. Right? So Bhagavad Gita is all about creating harmony. Right? We have to create harmony in whatever way we are doing, whatever way we are living our life. Duryodhan was disharmonious to the society. He had to go. Right? So, so we have to be situated in whatever suits our guna and karma, and live our lives to the best of our capacity, doing our spiritual practices, and then eventually go back home, back to Godhead. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says this: Sthani sthita shruti gatam tanuman manobhir. Sthani sthita, stay in whatever position you have been assigned by the Lord, according to the Varnashrama system. Sthani sthita shruti gatam. Shruti means to hear Krishna's pastime, and use your tanu van manobhir. Tan, body; van means your tongue; mano means your mind. Use all these three faculties in Krishna's service, right? And then we will go back home, back to Godhead. That was the whole principle of our Varnashrama system. So henceforth, if somebody asks you about the caste system in India, you can explain it to them that the caste system is based on guna and karma. Unfortunately, it's been degraded to be based on birth, which is not at all the way our scriptures, Krishna told us to do. So that's the Varna system that we have. Okay, so I talked about the Varnas: the Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And if you see the way accordingly, I have put arrows according to it. So just like in the body, we have head, we have arms, we have belly, we have legs, and they all have their purposes. Okay, and they all are important. They all have functions to do. But then when all of them are put into place, the head is the most important. Why? Because the head gives us vision. It has two jobs, right? The head, Vikalpa and Sankalpa. Vikalpa means to offer us options, and Sankalpa means determination to take up one of those options. So the mind is an important part of the body. So just as the mind is giving us vision and is controlling these senses in the body, the Brahmanas originally were meant to take care of the society, right? So and it's not just that Brahmana is to be found only in India. The Brahmanas are the intellectual society, okay? Intellectual class of society that guides the society. Okay? So that's the purpose of Brahmanas. And similarly, just as we have our arms, so our arms are used in protection. So arms give protection to us. So similarly, Kshatriyas, they're the administrators, they're the warriors, they protect the society. Okay. Then we have Vaishyas. So Vaishyas are the mercantile community. They're very good at business. They know how to make money. They are the belly of the society, because when they do business, they're creating jobs. They're creating. Their job is to generate nourishment and to distribute it, right? So Vaishyas, the Vaishya community, the mercantile community, they produce money, they produce cloth, they produce food items, so on and so forth, and then that's supplied to the society. Okay, so that's the Vaishya community. Now coming to the legs by themselves have no special ability, like the intellectual class, the Brahmana, or the administrative class, which is the Kshatriyas, or the mercantile community, which is the Kshatriya, which is the Vaishyas. They don't have any of that task. But then Shudras, the lowest quality, because they don't have any inclination towards either of the top three, they can surely support the top threes. Okay, right? So Shudras can carry out what the top three want to execute. And this distinction, as I said, is based on quality and the activity of the person performs. Guna and karma. Born as a Brahmana, but have habits like Shudra, then you will be a Shudra. You should be a Shudra. Can anybody think of an example from Mahabharata of somebody who was born in one Varna and then he or she acted as another Varna? Any examples, any thoughts? Not just Mahabharata, if you have some other sources anywhere.
Parshuram, Prabhuji.
Parshuram?
Dronacharya, Prabhuji.
No, neither of them. Dronacharya was a Brahmana. and he was skilled in the art of warfare, and that's what he was teaching them, teaching the disciples. Parshuram he was a Brahmana, and he had a specific task at hand. Because the Kshatriyas were out of control, he being the Brahmana clan, being the intellectual, he had to wipe them off. So they had specific duties to perform. They didn't act in a way out of their guna and karma. There was some duty, they were being assigned to do. Any other thoughts, anyone?
Prabhuji, Karna.
Yes.
Karna, tell me, how do you think Karna is? Can you explain it more, please?
He was born into the Kshatriya family, right? But although he was, but then he became part of the lower class because he went to a lower class family.
But that wasn't because of his qualities and activities. That was something that his mother just gave him up at birth. But if you notice, he was born in a Kshatriya family and he had qualities of a Kshatriya. He was a warrior equivalent to Arjun. So he had all the Kshatriya qualities. His guna and his quality and his activities, those attributes were of a Kshatriya, and he was born as a Kshatriya. I'll tell you. So if you notice, one of them was Ashwathama. Ashwathama was the son of a Brahmana, but because he was so he wanted to please Duryodhana, and he killed the 5 children of Draupadi.
Yeah.
As a Kshatriya, you have to follow a set of rules. You don't kill somebody when somebody is sleeping, or once the war has been, like for example, if you know, the Mahabharata was fought for 18 days, but at the evening, when the war was called off, that everybody now the conch shells had blown and the war was officially halted for the night, all of them would sit together and eat. That was the kind of the commitment they had towards their society, towards their varna. They wouldn't harm each other. They were like friends after that. And next morning again, they were ready to kill themselves. It's hard to imagine, but then they had very strict principles and they would never give them up. But Ashwathama, he went and killed the children of Draupadi. First of all, they were children. You don't attack children. Children, women, old age men. They were not to be attacked in a war. That is why, if you know, Bhishma died because in front of Bhishma came Shikhandi, and Shikhandi was born as he was actually, he was neither boy nor a girl. So because of that, Bhishma refused to shoot arrows on him, and then eventually the story goes that he was helpless and then Arjun should kill him. So, but then yes, Ashwathama gave up his qualities of a Kshatriya and he killed the sons of Draupadi, who were children. They were sleeping. It was night. So that was an activity of a Shudra. Another one, if you notice, was Vidur. Vidur was supposedly a son of Shudra, even though in his original form he's Yamaraj. Okay, but he had to come on this because he had been cursed, and it's a long story behind it. But so he was born as a Shudra. So Ambika and Amalika, there were two wives and of Chitrangada. Yes, Chitrangada. And but then because Chitrangada died, Vyasadeva was asked to conceive children, but that was out of his mental power. He didn't have to get into a physical intercourse with them. So so 2 of them, but then Vyasa was very ugly, so one of them closed their eyes, so Dhritarashtra was born blind. One of them just became so pale that her son was Pandu. But then 3rd time when Vyasadeva again came, Ambalika pushed her maid in front instead of herself. So the maid was not fearful of Vyasa. So out of that, who was born was Vidur. So Vidur, even though he was born of a Shudra mother, but he had qualities of a Brahman. He was giving advice to the king, and his advice was, if Dhritarashtra could have followed it, he would have won the battle. But he did not. So Vidur was, even though born in a Shudra, his qualities were of a Brahmana. And he was given a position of a Brahmana. He was an advisor to the king. And furthermore, when Duryodhan humiliates Vidur, instead of fighting back or sulking in a corner, he just leaves. And then he goes to the forest and he talks to Uddhav and Maitri Muni, and he learns about Krishna and all that. So he had all the qualities of a Shudra. So these two examples come from Mahabharata. Okay. So this is the Varna system that we have. Now coming to the ashram system. So now ashram, I didn't put an arrow, but you could technically put an arrow to all four of them, similar to the way I put for the Varna system. I just didn't put it because there might be some ambiguity, and I didn't want to say that this is a clear-cut connection there. But then if you notice, the sannyasis, which are the topmost of the class, sannyasis have given up everything, all material connections, right? So they are the head of the society in terms of guiding the people of the society how to live their personal life. In India, now the people have made it into a profession, but around 40, 50 years ago, it's slightly more than that, sannyasis, they would come to the houses of these householders, to grastas, so that he could bless the grastas, right? As they say, right, that what's that? Tulyama lavenapi na swargam na punar bhava bhagavat sangi sangasya. That just by having an association of a pure personal, tulyama lavenapi. Lavena means one single moment. If you can have association of a pure devotee, that can change your life. And the sannyasis, they were so compassionate that they would go to people's houses just to have their mercy on those people. That's the purpose. So sannyasis were guiding them. And sannyasis, no sannyasi would stay at any house, anybody's house, wouldn't stay at anybody's house for any long time. Okay, so that's the sannyasi. So he's the head of the society in one sense. Then comes the Vanprastha. So Vanprastha are the elderly couples. They are trained in proper culture, they have maturity, they have wisdom, and the husband and wife, they stay together, right? Because they want to render service to the society, okay? Because they are the mature fruit of their hard labor, because they have very sincerely followed the ashram system. So they are mature, they're offering their knowledge to other similar grastas in the society. Okay. So then comes the grasta. Now the grastas, you can in one sense also say they are the belly, right? Because the grastas are the ones who are working, or the ones who are earning money. Okay. They're married, and they make facility for themselves and for others in the society. Okay. So that's the purpose of brahmacharya, grastas. And grastas, as grastas, and most of you as grastas, grastas have a specific duty of giving charity. That is the way a grasta contributes to the society. Because the grasta is earning, and Shastras tell us that, and we read it in Nectar of Instruction also, that how Prabhupada tells us that we have to offer a significant a portion of our earnings to the society, to the sannyasis, for charity work, for such activities as Prabhupada has shown us. So that's the grasta ashram. And then comes the brahmacharis. Now brahmacharis are younger children, okay, and they're trained in such a way that they can enter into any varna and any ashram. That's the way they have been trained. So a person, if you all must have seen within ISKCON, there are many brahmacharis who directly become sannyasis. Okay, but then there are many brahmacharis who take up grasta also. So it's not just that, okay, brahmachari has to remain brahmachari throughout his life. So the brahmachari's trainings have been provided in such a way that he or she can, take up any ashram. Okay. So the first 25 years, and this is the kind of the model system. Nobody is following it as of now, but first 25 years, you are following brahmacharya. We develop purity. We cultivate knowledge, we cultivate skills, values, and then the next 25 years, grasta ashram. we produce devotional children, we enjoy delights accordingly. We know we are in an ashram, we are not Grahamedis. So we enjoy it according to the scriptures. And we'll read this in the 7th chapter. Krishna himself says that Kamo asmi bhartarshava, that I am lust, which is done according to devotional principles. So what it Krishna means is that having children, if the purpose of having children is to make them into devotees, to give them the knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and the true understanding, then there is no harm in creating children. But if you're just creating children for pleasure purposes, then I'm a Grahamedi. I'm not following the Grihastha ashram system. Okay, so that's the job of Grihastha. Then in one Prastha ashram, material part is reduced. Okay, so just look at it this way: first 25 years brahmacharya, strict regimen to follow. You attain purity, attain knowledge, skills. Then you come to Grihastha ashram, you can enjoy, you can balance your life. Okay, I do spirituality, I do material aspects also. After that, when you beyond 50, we become a Vanprastha. The material part is significantly reduced. If you have had children, they are grown up, you paid your mortgage, all your bills are done, you don't have much to worry about. Then people would take to the Vanprastha system. Okay, and the spiritual part and the social contribution increases. Okay, and then finally comes sannyas. But not everybody is made to take sannyas. Only 1% takes sannyas. 99% remain Vanprastha. Right? And unfortunately, in what's happening in today's world is that there is a generation gap. This phrase is very commonly used, even though at least I fully never understood it until I read Prabhupada's books. Generation gap means that I have not done my duty of transmitting the values, the culture to the next generation. That is why the generation gap came. 100 or so years ago, not even 100 years ago, my father, he was a part of a joint family system. He had, that family had everybody all the way from 5-year-olds to 70, 80-year-old people in that one house. They were staying into one house. So, but then generation gap is happening in today's world because there is a great anomaly in the education system, right? The education system in today's world is geared towards hedonism. How to enjoy, how can I enjoy more? How can I earn more? How can I trick people more to, get more money? That's the way the education system is designed. Secondly, there is an overall lack of training. I, as a person, don't know how to transmit this knowledge to my children. Only recently, since I started reading Prabhupada's books, I'm realizing that I have to try at least to transfer this knowledge to my children. But then we, as a community, are a fraction of the society, bare fraction. And then the third system is that the age-old system of guru-disciple has become obsolete. So that's another problem. That's why this generation gap comes, right? In modern times, there is no Grihastha, there is no brahmacharya. Grihastha ashram is not harmonized. The Grihastha ashram is based on sexual capacity, and physical appearances. It's not based on commitment. Okay, right? We don't have the training to handle sexual desires. That is why we move into a Grihastha ashram from a very wrong way. So, and that's another reason why people don't give up Grihastha ashram. They always want to live in Grihastha ashram because they always want to enjoy. They always want to enjoy their life. And the system is degraded to such an extent, even old people, they also can't control their desires. And even on the deathbed, they're thinking about that. And then they come back into this material world, and this cycle keeps going. So that's what Prabhupada is doing. Prabhupada is sincerely putting in an effort, and he's successful, at least to the people who wanted to take it up, to teach them how to live your lives properly. And nobody in the entire, at least to my knowledge, nobody in the entire world has ever given this knowledge in such a practical way that we could just take it home and live with it. Only Prabhupada did that. All his earlier gurus, the acharyas, they all are venerable, respectable, but then nobody gave it in such a way. And Prabhupada used to very humbly say that they left it for me to do it. But we know that nobody else has done that. Brahmanas have become a more like a rubber stamp. They become corrupt. There are no qualities. There are no Kshatriyas. People get into army for money purposes. Vaishyas have become capitalists. They're all about making money. There's no charity. Shudras are all talking about being exploited. There's no contribution. So that's all. That's all how it is. So that's the system. I just wanted to bring this out because in the next 8 verses that we read, Krishna is going to talk about Swadharma. So you should know what is Swadharma. So I taught you about Swadharma. What is Nitya Dharma? That is pretty straightforward. I don't have to go into much details around that. So this is a verse that comes from 7th canto. Prabhupada, sorry, not Prahlad Maharaj speaks this to his schoolmates. So this is a 5-year-old kid talking to other 5-year-olds during their lunch break. So somebody wants to read the verse, please?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Shri Prahlada Uvacha Shravanam Kirtam Vishnam Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vananam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedam. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service.
Thank you. So this is our Nitya Dharma. This is our eternal duty. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. The beginning is Shravana. Shravana means to hear. Kirtanam is to speak. And that could be you're speaking the Maha Mantra, you're talking to others about Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. So that's Kirtanam. Then Smaranam, remembrance. Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So all this is the Nitya Dharma. Okay. So that's our so now you have a clear understanding of what is Swadharma, my duty as a body, like as the body that I'm engaged in, and my duty as I am my true nature as a soul. That's my Nitya Dharma. So keep this in mind. This will come throughout Bhagavad Gita, and many places you will see that Krishna might say dharma, but then you have to Prabhupada clarifies that what kind of dharma is Krishna talking about here. So that's something for us to keep in mind. Okay, so let's go to the verses. Before I move on, any thoughts, any comments, questions, anything on your mind that you would like to bring out? Nothing? Okay. Okay, so let's do verse 31. So we read that. Then, so here Prabhupada is specifically talking about Kshatriyas because Arjun, being a Kshatriya, it was his duty. He was specially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary fact. Non-violence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it's never a factor or principle. And the surprising thing is that one so-called politician, he based his entire movement on claiming that non-violence is something being propagated by Bhagavad Gita. As Bhagavad Gita is neither about violence nor about peace, it's about transcendence. It's a book of love, actually, if you ask me. So then Prabhupada talks about the 2 duties, and I mentioned to you, he's saying 2 duties. So he's saying one profound duty of his particular body, that's the Swadharma, and when we are liberated, that specific becomes spiritual. So that's the Nitya Dharma, as I said. And as I said, just so that we have clarity in our mind, I named it differently. Or senior devotees, acharyas have named it differently. Not me, I'm just following them. Okay, so let's come to the next one, 32nd verse. O Parth, Happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. Now, this is a direct contradiction to what Arjun was saying, right? If you remember, in the, I think it was the 31st, no, in the first chapter, Arjun was saying that I will go to hell if I kill my own kinsman. That was his argument against it, right? So now Krishna is right here, starting with the. First of all, you have to understand that Krishna is not starting with bhakti in the whole process. He's starting with Arjun's dharmic duties of a Kshatriya. Okay? In relation to this, you will notice that in Prabhupada, in his purports, right from the beginning, talks about bhakti. And somebody might come and question you and might say that, oh, your Prabhupada's translation is not correct because his purports are not correct because he's talking about bhakti. When Prabhupada talks about...
You gotta listen, you can barely hear it.
Was there something?
From the very beginning of this course, he spoke of bhakti. That's what he was talking.
Sankirtan Prabhu, do you have something to say? I couldn't hear you.
Oh.
Were you saying something, Sankirtan Prabhu?
Yeah, but how did you hear me?
Well, because you're unmute, and you're not on mute. I can hear you.
Oh my God, my wife says I was sleeping. And I just repeated what you said.
Okay.
I said, you're teaching bhakti from the very beginning. Prabhupada spoke, and she said, oh, you can't hear us. And then you said something. You say something, Sankirtan? Sorry to disturb you. I'll turn it on.
No, that's fine too. Yes, as I was saying, Prabhupada right from the beginning tells us about bhakti. And if somebody comes and questions you that, the reason I always give these viewpoints is because I have had these questions as I have been coming. People have asked me. I'm presuming you also all are Prabhupada soldiers. You also will get such questions. So I always try to bring out whatever I feel could be a potential question. So if you have more, please feel free to bring it. But so the concept to understand here is that there is a principle and there is a detail. In any concept, any theory, there's a principle and a detail. You cannot change the principle. You can change details according to time, place, and circumstance. Prabhupada did that. Shastra says you shouldn't make nobody should be a sannyasi in Kali Yuga. Prabhupada was creating 25-year-olds as sannyasis because he had a purpose. The principle was to serve Krishna, and he was ready to change the details around. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada never moved even an inch from the principle that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not even for an instant. Not a single word would be away from this basic principle fact that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then details can be changed around time, place, and circumstance. And what was the time, place, and circumstance? Prabhupada was sitting in the middle of these hippies who had no idea what bhakti was, who were all about illicit sex, drugs, and so on and so forth. Prabhupada had to give them the knowledge in as easy and as direct way as possible. Even if anybody picked up a Bhagavad Gita and read one page out of it, they would know what the Bhagavad Gita is about. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and my job is to surrender. That is why Prabhupada starts from bhakti right from the beginning. But you also have to remember, Prabhupada never messed around with the purpose, with the translation. He never change the trans. He will give them exactly word by word what Krishna is. And that is the beauty of what Prabhupada has given us. That is why he called his book as it is, Bhagavad Gita as it is, because he never changed anything. There was not even a tiny word or meaning. You can go back and check Sanskrit. And that is why this is the most old version. This is the only version in the entire world that has created Krishna devotees. Otherwise, there are thousands of versions, and all these fancy people, Radha Krishnan, Ekanath, I have read a version by Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi. Good, they might be good versions, but they never created any devotees. Because Prabhupada was pure, his translations made an effect on whoever read them. So I think probably I digressed from what I was saying, but yes. So coming back to the verse, so that's the thing to understand here, right? Kshatriyas, he's saying that Kshatriyas job is to have to fight, and for them the doors of the heavenly planets are open. So here to understand is that even though you follow your Swadharma, which is either you're a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, whatever it may be, it's not as if you can go back to Godhead with that Swadharma. You always have to have Nitya Dharma, which is the important part. And for Kshatriyas, even if they do their duty properly, then it's not as if they will go back to God. They'll go to heavenly planets. They will rise up the ladder in these systems. And we have a 14 planetary system, right? So we have Satya Loka, we have Satya, Tapa, Jana, Mahar, Bhuvar, Bhru, and then the 7 lower ones, Atal, Vital, Sutal, Talatal, Mahatal, Satal, Patal. So those are the 14 planetary systems that we have. And we are right in the center, which is the Bhulok. And the Bhulok is the ground floor of this planetary system. So what do you do when you have to go out of a building? You have to come to the ground floor. It might have 100 floors up, 100 floors down. You always have to come to the ground floor. That is why this material human form is so valuable that we should not waste it at all. We are on the ground floor. This is the only way out of this world. Bhagavatam tells us that the residents of the upper planetary systems, they desire to be born in this planetary system so that they can exit out of it, right? That's because the door is out right here. Exit is right here. So, yes. So Arjun, what Arjun had said in the first chapter was that Nacha Shreyo Anupashyami, right? Hatva Swajanam Ahavai. That by killing my own Swajana, Hatva, by hurting them, I will not get any Shreya. But now our Krishna is giving me a completely different view, that you will get Shreya when you kill them actually. So he is saying that what Shreya will I get by killing? Krishna is saying that's a wrong thought. You will actually get Shreya by killing them. You'll go on to the higher planets of the system, higher planetary system. Then come to the 33rd verse. Let's see. Atha cheptvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tatha swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapshasi. Again, the word swadharma comes here. So if you notice, it's not Nitya Dharma, it's just a Swadharma that Krishna is highlighting here. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duty and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So Prabhupada is kind of just saying what we just talked about. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from the battle, right? So in this verse, Dharmyam Sangramam. This is not an ordinary war. Krishna is saying it's Dharmayam Sangramam. And this also comes in the first verse of Dhritarashtra, which we read, right? Dharma Kshetre Kurushetre Mama Veta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjay. So Dharma Kshetre Kurushetre. So it's a Dharma Kshetra. In Dharma Kshetra, a Dharma war is happening. It's Dharmayam Sangramam. It's not an ordinary war. It is meant to establish Dharma. This is one of the purposes why Krishna comes. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapana. 3 verses, 4 chapter. I forgot which verse it is. So Paritranaya sadhunam, welfare of the good people, devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam, more the evil of the society. Vinasham, eradication. Dharma samsthapana. So this is a dharma war, and Krishna is only asking him to follow what he's telling him. Forget about everything else. This is my father, my uncle, my teacher, so on and so forth. Forget about everything, Krishna says. But if you don't fight, you will get pap. Arjun was fearful that he will get pap by fighting, but now on the contrary, if he doesn't follow dharma, then he will lose his dharma and kirti. That's the thing. Kirti. The word kirti is here, is reputation. You will lose your reputation. Right? That's what Krishna is telling him. That is the contrary to it. So, so what could be a lesson for us here, right? So this is also another aspect. I'll take a detour again. Whenever we read Prabhupada's purport, we should at least try to find something which falls into one of the buckets that I talked about last week. I briefly showed you, right? The aim of Shastric study. For example, does it have any personal application for me? Okay. How can I use this verse in my personal life? Secondly, does it have a preaching application? Can I use something from this to convince somebody else that why following a path of spirituality is the only, or the most important path in this world? That's the preaching application. Is there something that Prabhupada is saying to motivate me as a practicing devotee? That could be another bucket. So we should always, whenever we read Prabhupada's purport, we should try to see what's there for me in it. What can I take out from this, right? So that's a good way of looking at it. So thinking about in the same tone, what is there in this particular verse for us? What Krishna is saying here. So as a father, a mother, a child, a teacher, a doctor, whatever your duty may be, we all have duties to perform, right? So currently the system is all perverted because we don't have any proper guidance. Okay, so luckily we are in a system, we are a part of a system wherein a disciplic succession is properly maintained, and proper Prabhupada established principles, etc. for us to follow. So we have some guidance. So we should be dutiful in performing under some guidance. Okay, and that helps us rise in the Dharma ladder. When we do our duties properly, it leads to purity of the heart, and it helps us. It helps one refrain from being impulsive and emotional. We all have, at least I have this problem that I'm impulsive and emotional. I will develop sense control. I'll develop purity if I follow this path sincerely. The 3 S we talked about in Nectar Instruction: strict, serious, and sincere. The path is very easy. You have to follow the easy path: strict, serious, and sincerely. But it is an easy path. It's not difficult to bring what Prabhupada is saying. So the message for this verse for us to take is that we should do our duties properly under a proper guidance of a guru, as you know, we all are either doing it or at least trying our level best to do it. We should not give up our duties just because they are cumbersome. Okay, that's 33. Let's come to 34. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Right? Now Krishna is pinching Arjun's sense of pride here. Kirti is being talked about here. Right? So if harsh words are spoken about Arjun, they'll be spread all over. Right? And that can be very harmful for Arjun. Because for a Kshatriya to hear dishonorable words is worse than death. Right? Whenever you're having a hard time, just think of this verse. Right? When you feel like, oh my God, spiritual life is too heavy, I can't follow it. Think of this verse. We have peers, we have seniors, we have gurus who have some faith on our caliber, on our qualities, on our intelligence, right? And then I also have a sense of self-esteem, a sense of self-respect, sense of responsibility. If I quit the process, it's going to have a negative effect on somebody, probably a newcomer. He or she sees me, sees you, acting in a way which is not conducive for, which is not in line with spiritual practices, can deter that other person also to come to bhakti. So whenever we read this, whenever you are going through a hard time, read this verse and try to think that Krishna is saying you have to follow it. Okay. And also, we as practicing devotees are always tested by the community, by the society. Right? It has happened to me so many times. Whenever I go to India, and if on something I get angry on my parents, the first thing my mother would say, is this what you're learning? You know, you are doing so much of chanting, reading, and all that, and this is what you're learning? And that would be a taunt on me. So what I want to say is that people are looking up to us. Right? Some people are your well-wishers. They are looking up to you because you will succeed. But then some people who are envious of you probably, and they're looking up to you because they're waiting for you to fail. In both the cases, you should not quit. Just keep going so that the whole world can see that practicing spirituality is the right path to talk about. Okay, so this is 35. 4. Any questions, any thoughts at this point? Anything on your mind? It's a long monologue that I've been having.
So Prabhuji, they say honor, dishonor, that's an illusion, but here it's saying dishonor is worse than death. So it's like it's a lesson, an application.
It is an application. It is also, as I said, it's being talked about Swadharma. And Prabhupada very clearly delineated this for us. As long as we are practicing devotees, we should not give up the dharma that we have in the society. Right? One has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. So the honor, dishonor, because it's associated with this body and not the soul, but till I am in this bodily concept, I have not yet attained that level of purity, and I've not become a sthita prajna, as Krishna will talk about later. I have to follow according to this body, and any honor and dishonor, I should take that into account. But not in an account in a way that it further, it hinders or it harms my spiritual progress. As I said, Varnashrama system, the only purpose is so that I can live my life harmoniously and practice bhakti. That's the only purpose of Varnashrama system. Other than that, there's no use of Varnashrama system. So yes, even if somebody honors you, dishonors you, you have to look at it from a perspective that does it help me if I fight with this person? Will it help me grow in my bhakti? Or am I just going to be wasting my time? Right? And we talked about in detail how to tolerate, right? There are different principles. Either you, like the Pandavas, the first thing they did, they just didn't say anything. They just tolerated. When Bhima was poisoned, and they were put in a lakh house and burned down and everything. But then when their wife was humiliated, they didn't sit quiet. They didn't tolerate that. They retaliated. And when in the last, when they heard that Krishna has left this planet, they gave up everything. They walked away. They didn't run away. They didn't chicken out. They just walked away. So we have to look at according to time, place, circumstance. You have to judge whether this, whatever is being dishing out to me, this honor, dishonor, does it affect my bhakti or it does not affect my bhakti? Accordingly, take a decision. So it's till I'm in the bodily concept, it's real. That's what I wanted to say. I'm not sure.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I had a question.
Yes.
Prabhuji, you mentioned, right, this verse 2.31 to 2.38 is talks about the karma kand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my understanding of karma kand was that when you perform all these rituals, ceremonies for materialistic gain and not for spiritual advancement, right? That is karma kand. So how does these texts like 32, 33 indicate karma kand? I'm not understanding.
So karma kand means to do your duty, right? Even though, so you are following Vedic principles according to that.
But the karma kand is for Prabhuji materialistic gain, right? To get power and all that, not for spiritual advancement, right?
Yeah.
That is karma
That's
kand. So how does this text 32, 33 speaks about karma kand?
Because it's telling Arjun to do his duty, which is on the bodily platform, his duty as a Kshatriya. So so the karma kand, according to the Vedic rituals and all their practices, even though not directly, but they move us in a mode of goodness.
Yes.
Yes, they are. I totally agree with you. They are on a bodily platform. There might be some material gains also that we are looking at, but then they still gently push us upwards. And that's what Krishna is asking Arjun to do, that if you do this duty, then you will move up heavenly planets. But karma kanda does not give you bhakti. It will never give you, it will never take you to the Vaikuntha planets. It can take you to heavenly planets, but then you again have to come back here. That's the way to look at it. Yes, you are right. The karma kanda, they are doing it for their personal benefits, but then the Vedas have these prescriptions which you can pick up and do, but then at the same time, you can also elevate up the ladder, but not beyond this creation. You will still be in this 14 planetary system, either upwards or downwards. That's why it's karma. Karma Kanda.
Makes sense, Prabhuji. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Prabhuji, one more question or comment.
Yes, Prabhu.
In this case, the karma kanda that Lord Krishna is asking Arjuna to perform is in the service of the Lord. So that means it's like, it's karma kanda, but it's karma without adverse actions, because Lord Krishna is asking Arjuna to perform this, because in the service of Krishna is what I'm trying to say. Is that good? Is that a good way to understand this particular karma kanda in the context of Arjuna?
So, as I said, karma. So okay, I'll kind of elaborate it a bit. I was trying to avoid that. Let's say the first level, the lowest rung of the ladder is karma. There is no concept of religiosity there. Okay. When we come to karma kanda, as I mentioned, there is dharma, artha, kama to eventually get moksha, liberation. But the liberation doesn't take you out of this material creation, keeps you here. So there is some pious activities. There is some desire to achieve something. So there is karma kanda. Here, what Krishna is asking Arjuna to do is to follow his duty as a Kshatriya, because he's a Kshatriya bodied person. But then Krishna is also telling him that you are not going to get it's not like you will come back to me. That concept even has not been brought out here. Krishna is just asking Arjuna to follow him as a duty as a Kshatriya. That's all Krishna is asking him to do. Till yet, Krishna has not even told him, my mom, those words have not even come here. And you will notice that for the first 6 chapters, rarely does Krishna bring out the word mom, my. But in later chapters, you will see entire chapters, like 12th chapter is all about my eva manadasva, my buddhim niveshaya, my, all that. It becomes my. So there Krishna starts talking about him as the Supreme Personality of God. So at this point, all Krishna is talking about karma kanda, do your duty as a Kshatriya and go up the higher planetary system. That's all.
So Prabhuji, can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, but did I address your first one? I think I'm not sure if I addressed it.
Absolutely, that you did. Yes. So it's not in that context, because those verses haven't even come yet. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So the follow-up question is, so that means with this concept, that means if you follow the duties prescribed in the Shastras in any of the ashrams, Shudra or whether Brahmana or whether Grasta, then it's highly likely, if you are able to perform those duties, then it's highly likely that you will go to the heavenly planets, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
And for example, right, if you see Mahabharata, let's not take that example, it may confuse people. But yes, you're right. So as I said, first level karma, no concept of religiosity. Karma kanda, dharma, kama, moksha, to attain moksha. You're doing your duty as the Vedic concept, Kshatriya, Brahmana, all that. You have to do that also properly to go up. Otherwise you'll go down, others will go down. Then comes Sakam Karma Yoga, where I start having a spiritual idea, but I still have material desires. Then come Nishkam Karma, Jnana Yoga. So there's a full cycle, and someday I'll talk about it probably when we come to that point. But yes, all these steps have specific purposes, have been given for a specific reason in the Vedas. And we can follow them, but then beyond everything, the topmost rung of the ladder is Keval Bhakti, is Ananya Bhakti. That's Krishna will talk about it in the later chapters, 12th, I think, comes there. That devotion to me, my eva mana adhatsva, my buddhim niveshya. Fix your mind on me, and become my devotee. Then you attain that the topmost level of the whole corpus of this Vedic literature, whatever they are saying. That's the topmost one.
Got it. Thank you, Prabhuji. Looking forward to that whole cycle. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll bring it when it comes. Sometimes I feel that it might unnecessarily confuse people, so I don't go into more technical details. But when the times come, I'll surely go into that. Even Varnashrama, I'll go into more detail when we come to the 4th chapter. So I could just give more of an overview. Okay, any more thoughts, anyone? I saw, yes, Gopal Prabhu you had a question, right?
Yeah, Prabhu, 1 second.
Yeah, he said, I think he put it in text, right? That what is the second thing needed along with Swadharma? Do you mean what's the other dharma or second thing needed in Swadharma? I didn't get that.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, the guna and karma you mean, right? Guna and karma. Those are the
Yes,
two things.
you gave the example of the Kshatriya, I guess, just doing his duty by fighting. You said that just by, fighting, he'll become liberated and go to the heavenly planets. But in order to go, beyond that to the spiritual planets, that there was something else besides Swadharma.
That was Nitya Dharma.
Nitya Dharma. Okay.
Yes. And at your leisure, you can read this verse we just talked about. Prabhupada clearly tells us verse 31. And Prabhupada is telling about the two kinds of dharmas. And I repeat myself, or the acharyas, the other senior devotees, they have called it as Swadharma and Nitya Dharma. Here Prabhupada is calling both of them as Swadharma, but then you can name them as just for simplicity purposes. But then Nitya Dharma is to become spiritual and no more to be in the material world, the concept.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I have a quick question.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
On the subject of duty, Kshatriyas and killing, we sometimes, hear about Kshatriyas, hunting, and so, on what authority or on what basis are they, allowed to, hunt animals? Is like one can say that it's their duty that, as being Kshatriyas, that they're authorized to, hunt animals, but, are there, any kinds of reactions, karmic reactions for doing this, or because of their
Well,
duty that they're authorized to, kill animals?
Yeah, that's a good question. Good point you bring out, Prabhu. As in all these varnas that I mentioned, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, there are some specific duties. It comes in the 18th chapter. I think it's the 44, 45, 46 verse. Krishna gives the specific duties of each varna, right? For example, it's Vaishya is Goraksha Vanijyam. Goraksha means taking care of cows, and Vanijyam. Now, if you just look at the duty of a Vaishya, who's a mercantile, he has to speak some lies to make money, right? If I'm running a business, if I go and tell somebody, I invested $5 in this piece of, whatever I made, let's say a machine, or I grew a great piece of, I grew some wheat or something. And if I give them that, okay, this is what exactly I put in. And if I ask that same amount, it's not conducive for my growth of the business, and I wouldn't prosper. I would just die then. So I have to tell some lies. Like right in India, if you go right or wherever you go, when you say how much is this, they'll always tell you an exaggerated price, and they will say, oh, this is only for you, and only for you I have reduced this price. So they all are making money, but they're also lying. So Prabhupada tells us that it's okay to lie in a Vaishya, as a Vaishya, because it's a part of their business, it's a part of their duty. If you don't lie, you'll never be able to be successful as a Vaishya, right? And whoever runs businesses, I'm very poor in those fields, but I know that when you have to do it, you're not trying to cheat people, but then you also are putting in some amount of diplomacy and some hand waving so that people can buy your things and you can make some money out of it. So similarly, in the role of a Kshatriya, because they're going to fight a war, because they have to be trained in this, you cannot be just throwing darts at a board and you start thinking that, okay, I'm perfect because I hit the bullseye in the board. You need some actual experiences. That is why all these Kshatriyas, they would go to the forest, and there they would fight with tigers and lions. Literally, they would fight them bare-handed. And many times the Kshatriya would die, but many of the Kshatriyas would actually kill these animals also. But the purpose behind that was that they had to be trained. Otherwise, there is no other way of training them. It's much better to kill human beings, right? In a training. But so that's why the animals were killed. But then also the Vedas tell us that these animals were not like, they were given a proper royal burial. And they were at that time when all these principles were, they were actually bona fide and they were properly used. That particular animal would get a higher birth in their next lives, because the mantras were so powerful. There were priests who could chant mantras and who could kind of give them a higher birth in their next lives. But then they had a purpose behind it, why they had to do it. So that is why hunting was necessary. Otherwise, how would Kshatriyas train themselves if not on animals? How would they know that they are strong enough to fight a proper enemy?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So essentially, these animals were elevated to a higher, but they took on higher bodies, basically.
Yes, they took on higher bodies. But then again, somebody might come and say to you that, okay, why don't you chant mantras now and do it, or probably bring back an animal to life? But today there are no, as I said, Kalo Shudra Sambhava. In Kali Yuga, everybody is born Shudra. There is no Brahmanas. Only Prabhupada can make, Prabhupada or Acharyas like Prabhupada can make anybody Brahmana. But then again, we are not Brahmanas to chant mantras. We are Brahmanas as intellectuals to give this knowledge to the society. That is why Prabhupada pushed so much for book distribution. Because we are Brahmanas, we are intellectuals. We should go out and tell people that what is the right path to walk. So that's the purpose there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's go on to the next verse. Okay, we talked about 34. Okay, so now coming to 35. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant, right? So he's saying now that now Krishna is giving him a different perspective, right? Till now he was saying that, oh, you will go to lower planetary systems, you'll go to heaven if you do the right job. Now he's saying that what are people going to say? And we talked about how till I'm in this bodily concept, honor and dishonor is going to affect you, right? So people will say, you chickened out, Arjun, right? Our motivations are not known to the world, or at least the people are not worried to know them, right? Our actions are seen by the world. And then our actions lead to perceptions the world has of us. So what Krishna is trying to indirectly tell him, that these people are actually waiting for you to fall down. Just I gave you the example how I can use it in my own life. That might be people who are envious of me, who are ready for me to fall down of this path, and there are people who are proud of me, who want me to grow. So similarly, if I fall down from this path, there will be a few set of people who will be really happy, and they will dishonor me. Duryodhana and Karna are the first two who are going to pull him down, and this is going to say all sorts of names of him, and they will say, oh, finally now he's proven himself as a coward. He ran out of the battlefield. They're not going to say that, oh my God, look at this, what a man, he just gave up the war because he was so compassionate towards everyone. No, that's not what people are going to say. So now Krishna is giving him a different perspective, that what will happen if you run out of it. So 36. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? And so Krishna is again saying that now they'll say all sorts of words to you. He's saying avachya vadams. Krishna is saying avachya vadams. What is that? Avachya vadams. Avachya means unkind. Vadan means fabricated words. And what are they going to be? There'll be bahum. There'll be lots of them. It's not as if that one person will one day vilify me and then they'll walk back home and say, okay, now I'm not going to trouble Prem now anymore. No, they will vilify me till their last breath, because now they're really enjoying that now they have got their nails stuck under my skin, and they've got a hook under my skin, and now they will just keep pulling me and torturing me by saying unkind words. So that means avachya vadams, and there will be bahum. There will be a lot of them. One important phrase that Prabhupada uses here is so-called compassion. Now, when you think of so-called compassion, what comes to your mind? What do you think so-called compassion means? Anybody, any thoughts? What would it mean? So-called compassion. It's not compassion, it's so-called compassion. Pseudo-compassion, as you can say.
It's not real compassion. It's just empty words.
Yes, that's right. It's empty words, and it also could be wrong actions. Prabhupada gives a story of his, I think, of his young days. And he had this family in the neighborhood, and once he noticed that there was a commotion in the house, so he went there and he started asking them that what's going on. He asked the servant of the house that what's going on there. So the servant told the story to Prabhupada that in that house there were two children, two boys, and one was 12 and the other one's 8 or so. And one of the elder boys was really sick. He had typhoid. And the doctor had told him no fried food for this boy, or only boiled vegetables. Otherwise, his health will go worse. So, but then what happened is that one evening, the parents went out of the house, and the boy who was sick, he was craving for some very crispy fried food. And he told his younger brother, please get me this crispy fried food. I'm really desperate. I want to eat this. I'm craving for this food. So the younger brother, he got it and he fed it to his elder brother. That's called misplaced compassion. Right? The child, when he thought he was compassionate, he was helping his brother, but actually he was taking him a step closer to death. So the commotion in the house was about the mother scolding the younger son. That's called misplaced compassion, the so-called compassion. What Arjun is showing is misplaced compassion, so-called compassion. It's not true compassion, right? And Prabhupada also says earlier that he describes his compassion as befitting the non-Aryans. So non-Aryans, Aryans are the people who are spiritually elevated. And this compassion, this so-called compassion, misplaced compassion, is non-Aryanic in behavior. And Prabhupada is highlighting that for us. A very important one, so-called compassion that we all should know about. So now comes to the 37th verse. We are here. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination, fight. Yuddhaya krita nishchaya. Krishna is saying nishchaya, also not half-heartedly, nishchaya. Right? The determination. Utsaha nishcha dhairya. We read that in the second verse of Nectar instruction. Utsaha nishcha dhairya tat tat karma pravartana. So determination is a more of a generic quality. You can use it for in many places. Yeah. Krishna will talk about determination in the 3 modes later on in the Bhagavad Gita. So we'll see that. So here right now, Krishna is asking Arjun to have determination towards his Swadharma and fight. So Krishna is so amazing. He presents a conclusion after each segment of his speech. Okay. So what is the conclusion he is giving us here? He's giving Yuddhaya Krita Nishchaya. Fight, Arjun. That will never go away. Even in the 11th chapter, Krishna will, even though he's talked about bhakti already, he's brought into the bhakti concept and everything. Still, he will say, Krishna will say Arjun, that you are an instrument, become an instrument, right? Sabyasachi, he calls him Sabyasachi. So you become an instrument in my service. But I'm going to have to fight for. So that never goes away. So we should apply this principle in our lives and duties also. In the name of spirituality, we sometimes present as being spiritual, as being transcendental, disconnected from the duties of the world. That's not what Krishna is asking us to do. As long as we're in this bodily platform, we should not give up our bodily duties. Some people try to present it this way. Oh my God, I'm now doing chanting. I'm chanting 16 rounds. I don't have to take care of my family. Oh my God, those useless, non-devotees. And I don't have to take care. I have to follow bhakti. I'll go back home, back to God. Krishna will never open the door for me. I think that's principle. And the beauty is that when whatever we read in Bhagavad Gita is elaborated upon in Bhagavatam in detail, you can see these principles being actually lived by devotees in Bhagavatam. That's the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So in the name of spirituality, we should not become pseudo-transcendentalists. Right? But at the same time, we should not overemphasize our Swadharma and neglect Nitya Dharma. We should do our, I think I mentioned, DODs, disinterested, obligated duties, and use our remaining energy in bhakti process. Right? And if there's a crucial moment where you are wavering, not knowing what to do, always lean on the Nitya Dharma side.
Prabhu, say again this, say the DOD.
Yes, it's DOD, disinterested, obligatory duties.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's this acronym that is a sentence right? I made that. It says, Prabhupada says voluntary life changes. So make VLCs in your life, voluntary life changes. And then do your DODs, right? And try to avoid nagging material desires, NMDs. It's a lot of acronyms there. So yeah, but DODs is right now what you can remember. We will talk about the other ones later. So yes, so whenever there's a crucial moment, if you are in a crucial moment, always lean towards the Nitya Dharma. But as I said, because here Krishna has not yet come into bhakti, he is still talking about on a bodily platform. And then the last verse, this is 38, I think 39, Krishna will change gears. He's saying, yeah, now listen in terms of working without fruit. Yes, something just finish off this 38 verse. He's saying, do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by so doing, you shall never incur sin. So we talked about this, Rasala Krishna Prabhu was asking this question about that they kill. So if we follow our duty right to the perfection, there will be no, will not be getting papa. But we'll be getting, it's not as if there'll be no karma. So karma is also 3 levels, right? Karma, akarma, vikarma. 3rd chapter, we'll talk about in detail. So it could be karma that pulls us down to the lower planetary systems. It could be karma that takes us to the heavenly planet systems. But then there is a karma that it takes us all the way out of this cycle of birth. So, so what is saying that sorry, I lost my train of thoughts. That
if you follow your duty to the perfection.
Oh yes, thank you. Yes, if you follow our duty to the perfection, it will take us towards the higher planetary systems. If the Kshatriya, because his duty is meant to protect, he's a protector, he's a warrior, killing is an integral part of it. So if he kills, it's not that he's going to go to hell, because he's killing under a proper guidance and authority, will move upwards. So that's the essence, yes. So here now, Krishna is saying, don't think of gain or loss. Earlier, Krishna was telling him in the earlier verses, Krishna was telling Arjun, if you don't fight, you will go to the hellish planets. People will mock you. If you fight, you'll go to the heavenly planets. Now Krishna is saying, don't worry about gain or loss. Okay. Earlier he's saying, good, you'll go to heaven and so on and so forth. So the reason Krishna is now saying this, because Krishna is taking Arjun to the next level. So, right, there's this concept that who was that? Chanakya, Pandit Chanakya brought, right? Sam, Dam, Dam, you apply everything for your success. So similarly, Krishna, first of all, he gave him a much lower hanging fruit, that you will go up to higher planetary systems, right? But then he says, now you're beyond that. Okay, don't worry about that also. Just fight. Go beyond that also, beyond that realm, beyond the concept of good heaven, hell. Just fight. So that's the that's where we will take a pause, and I just want to see what the next section is. Next section comes Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga, okay. Buddhi Yoga. Okay. So it's the Sankhya, it's analytical study, right? And Buddhi Yoga means combining your duties and the analytical skills by Buddhi, means by using your intelligence, right? And Buddhi, the word Buddhi uses, Buddhi Yoga assumes different meanings across Bhagavad Gita, and I'll point it out to you according to as we go there. Okay. So that's the 39th verse, and we will start that next week. Anything else anybody has in your mind? If not, we can.
What did you say about Buddhi Yoga, combining the duty with?
Combining your karma, your karma yoga, right? We doing our karma with an analytical mindset, right? Let's say, for example, I go out every morning and I I stand on my deck and I see that, okay, these, even though I'm doing my duty every day, I go to work, but while I'm going to work, on the work, I see that, okay, see, now fall season is coming. these leaves have started falling down. And then my analytical part of my brain starts to process that there is a cycle that's happening. Leaves come green, then they die, they fall down. Winters come, no growth, then again. So it is a cycle. So that means this world is always moving in a cycle. So I'm just giving you one example of analytical mindset, right? So you can think it that way. So Krishna is going to combine both of them, doing your activity and also being in an analytical mindset. In the later verses that now we will talk about.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, I think this section I've highlighted it, so let me read that. He who acts, this is in the 38th verse, he who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad. But he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in the ordinary course of activities. And Prabhupada quotes this famous verse from the 11th canto, 11.541. Devrishi bhutapta nirnam pitranam nakinkaro nayam rinicharaja sarvatmana yaha sharanam saranyam gato mukundam parihartya kartam. Anybody who has completely surrendered unto Krishna, the highlight of the verse. If I'm still in my unsurrendered state, I should not. Giving up all other duties is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone, nor the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor fathers. But the important part I highlighted is completely surrender. And complete surrender it takes a long time. So when you read this verse somewhere, don't feel that, okay, I don't have to do any duties to any of my relatives, my forefathers, my kinsmen, or to the society. No, it's only for somebody who's completely surrendered. Okay. Anything else we need to discuss? No? Okay. We'll wrap up. We'll meet next week. I'll be in California. I should be able to do the class.